Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Heidi from My Reading Life, and I'm here today to film the sort of bookshelf tag that Adam at Memento Mori developed and a few other booktubers have been doing, and it's basically just a chance for me to show you my bookshelves and talk about how I curate my collection. So I'm going to turn you around and I'm going to start showing you what I have for books. So this is my to be read shelf, and it's in my bedroom. It's just this little 3-shelf bookshelf, and I sort of have it organized so that the top shelf are large trade size paperbacks, organized alphabetically by author, and then the second shelf there are some sci-fi there on the far left, mass market paperbacks, which are mostly sci-fi, some YA type things, and then some mystery, thriller, more mass market paperbacks over there on the right. That shelf really is probably the least organized of all of these. And then here on the bottom, on the left, I have my classics, and on the right, I have hardcover fiction. So basically how I like to organize my to be read is first by format of the book. Oh yeah, I forgot to say on that top shelf on the far right, those are a few mass market romance novels that I have to read. And you can see I kind of like to keep things separated a little bit by genre and then a little bit by book format. So it's kind of all over the place on these TBR shelves. I guess the thing to remember about my TBR in here, my TBR shelves in here, is that I kind of buy books, I mostly buy books used, so I don't often buy books specifically for the type of format they are or condition that they are, so that's why I have kind of all over the place books. Okay, this is my big bookshelf in the living room. And you can see there's TV on the top and pictures, and then down there in the bottom left, down here in the bottom are my scrapbooks. I also scrapbook, so that's where I keep all those. So let's just get closer here and we'll talk about what you can see here. This top shelf on the left, the books in the back, those are my TBR nonfiction. Organized by author last name alphabetically, and then some stacks that you remember I talked about before. These are books that have been loaned to me or that I want to read soon. These are currently reading. These are finished and haven't talked about yet. These are new and haven't talked about yet. And then behind here, these are my presidential biography books that I have already read and I'm keeping. Down here, behind this sign, are my classics that I've already read and that I'm keeping. So you can see all different kinds of formats, because like I said, I don't really buy based on condition of the book. I buy whether or not I've read it. And then over here on the right are main authors or main books, just a small little collection that I have there. Down here I have yearbooks, baby books, that sort of thing. A few coffee table size books that don't fit anywhere else. Okay, and then up here I have, this is my paperback fiction, some hardback fiction too. So these are basically contemporary fiction. There might be a little bit of historical fiction in there too, but it's basically just general fiction. And then over here I have essay collections. And that's it for this bookcase. Also in the living room I have this small stand. It's basically an old wooden box, and inside of it I have science fiction and fantasy mass market paperbacks just stuffed in there. And then some hardcover classics that it's using to prop up that lamp. Alright, this is the 4-shelf bookcase that is seen behind me when I'm filming in my dining room. And this case is primarily filled with sci-fi, fantasy, and a little bit of horror. although you might find a few odds and ends in there. So the very top shelf, that's mass market, excuse me, paperbacks. And then the next shelf, trade paperbacks. I don't even have these organized alphabetically or anything. They're just kind of stuffed in there. Usually try to put series together, and that's about it. So you'll see the third shelf has a bunch of hardcover J.D. Robb. That's the In Death series that I have been reading for a long time. And then over to the right of that, you can see I've got N.K. Jemisin and the Nevermore series. And then down here at the bottom, I've got my George R. R. Martin stuff, and then a bunch of other random fantasy type books. So that's basically all I have to say about that. So moving upstairs, and I'm sorry for the echo because I'm in the hallway of my upstairs, and this built-in bookcase. I just want to stop for a minute here and talk about bookcases, because this bookcase my husband built for me in the last year for more space. So you can see that way down here it doesn't have books in it yet. It has office supplies and paperwork and crap. So I'm still filling this one up. The big bookcase in the living room that I showed you previously, he built, and the bookcase in the dining room with the sci-fi fantasy he built. So basically, he's built 3 of my main bookcases. He does really nice work, and he really takes his time, and I love them all. So he's a keeper. We're going to keep him around. So in this bookcase up here, on the far left here, this is my Stephen King collection. I've been collecting Stephen King in hardcover for quite a number of years. Some of them, these are all hardcover for the most part, although I do have a few paperbacks down here. But most of these are hardcover. I've been collecting since I got out of college, and the ones that were earlier, which is sort of, you know, these ones up here, because these are shelved chronologically by publication date. And so the older ones, some of them were my mother-in-law's, who has passed away, and I inherited her collection. So these mean a great deal to me. Some of them were given to me as gifts. A lot of the newer ones have been given to me by my parents for Christmas. So there's just a lot of meaning for me for this collection. And then moving over, I have just some random series there at the top shelf, along with some office supplies. The middle shelf is YA series, mostly my daughter's, Harry Potter's, and Rick Riordan stuff, although some of my YA's crammed in there as well. And then down here on the bottom, I have mass market sci-fi fantasy series and a few more YA over here. Top shelf here, picture books, just a few that I have left out. Probably gonna get this one filled up soon. And then these ones down here, coffee table books and reference books, and then stuff from college, textbooks and binders and stuff like that. So that's my upstairs shelf. I have some blueberry boxes hanging on the wall that I put little knickknacks in, pictures here along the top and other memorabilia, and then more office supplies. Okay, so we finally made it to my library, which you'll see this background whenever I film up here. I do film up here quite a bit in the wintertime when the lighting's just crap anyway. So let's go through my collections here. Top shelf, these are all my science and science reference books. So you can see over here are my field guides. And then over here are just science nonfiction, excuse me. So this collection, these I've been collecting for a long time, and some of this stuff's pretty old, and then some newer stuff over here. The second shelf here are this is my historical fiction shelf. So these are all my Dorothy Dunnett's, the Lyman Chronicles, and then I have some of the Nikolai series, my Diana Gabaldon's. I stopped reading that series, so stopped collecting. And then some hardcover, I think there's a Georgette Heyer in there and Daphne du Maurier, couple that I got at church yard sale. Church yard sales are a great place to find old vintage hardcovers. People are getting rid of stuff. So then this next shelf I have over here, I have a few graphic novels. And then this is all nonfiction, organized alphabetically by author's last name, and that continues on the same shelf. So these are all nonfiction. And then at the end of that shelf, I just have some random mystery paperbacks thrown in there. And then this very bottom shelf, let me get down so you can see. These are my son's books that he has not taken with him yet to his new residence. So they're still here on the shelf, and you can see they lean heavily to adventure novels and some Star Wars stuff. Random magazines that I've read, and a few odds and ends of like books that are too big to fit other places. So, and then up at the top are all my mass market paperbacks that over the years these have been favorites, and I reread them, and I'm not willing to let them go. So this shelf is all J.D. Robb's from the same In Death series. When that series started out, it was in paperback, and so you could only get them in paperback, and I didn't have any money anyway, so that's how I would have gotten them. But now they are often released in hardcover first, and so I get them in hardcover when I can. And then these are Nora Roberts series that I particularly enjoy. Suzanne Brockman romance suspense that I particularly enjoy. Some Susan Elizabeth Phillips romances. Some Julia Quinn romances. What do I got up there? Loretta Chase and Sarah McLean. More Nora Roberts. So just favorite romances and things like that I, every now and again when I need some comfort, I like to read them. And so then on this side, oh, by the way, speaking of this bookshelf was built for me by my dad and given to me for my 8th grade graduation gift. So this bookshelf has moved with me after I got married out to Colorado and then moved home again when we moved back to Maine, and now is in my library, and I love it very much. And then the other bookshelf I have is this small white bookshelf, and this bookshelf was in my husband's parents' home, and when his parents passed away, we inherited it, and he painted it up for me and put it up here in our library. And these are some, whatever, diplomas and awards and whatever. And then this is all my childhood library. So all the books that I had when I was a kid that I've kept and brought with me, and then some, my Bibles and my Laura Ingalls Wilder collection, some Nancy Drews, and some classic small format paperbacks. So that's it for my bookcases. I have a lot of bookcases. Let me just turn you around so I can talk to you again. So yeah, so you can tell I have a lot of bookcases and a lot of collections, but these are the books that I've been collecting pretty much throughout my life. And I keep books because I either A, love the book, or it has some kind of sentimental meaning or memory for me. And I don't have to love a book to keep it if I feel strongly some emotional attachment to it. So my collection is really based more on my feeling for the book versus, although my nonfiction a lot of times I keep because of information that I want to refer back to. But a lot of the other books are because they hold some emotional meaning for me. And my bookcases have just as much emotional meaning for me as my books do. So it's all very important to me. And particularly this room, my library, my upstairs library, is filled with things that have some deeper meaning to me, and that's why I love it so much. So anyway, that's just a little tour of all my bookcases and all my books that I have collected. I hope that you enjoyed it. Please let me know down below something about your book collection. I'd love to hear about it. And until the next video, I'll talk to you later.